Hi, my name is Evelyn. I'm an IGI PhD candidate at the University of York, and today I'll be talking about our paper on investigating team cohesion indicators in ad hoc League of Legends teams. So what is cohesion? It's defined as a shared bond or attraction that drives team members to want to work together or stay together. And cohesion has task and social dimensions, which just means that this shared bond or attraction may be due to the shared commitment to the task and or the social bonds developed between the members. What was the main motivation for this study? Well, we know that cohesion is important. There's a large body of literature, 8 meta-analyses showing that cohesion has a positive influence on performance as well as other indicators like satisfaction and retention. But despite this large body of literature showing the impact of cohesion, we don't really know how to cultivate it. There's much less empirical evidence on its predictors. And this has been attributed to measurement limitations. So historically, cohesion has been measured using surveys that are administered post team performance, the post-team task. And this has made it difficult to tease apart the factors that have influenced cohesion levels. And as a result, researchers have been encouraged to develop behavioral measures that will allow us to measure cohesion longitudinally across the team's life cycle. So in an attempt to do that, we looked at team communication specifically to ask to answer whether specific communication metrics can be used as proxy behavior indicators of cohesion. And for this study, we looked at word frequency, content frequency, and communication sequences. So we situate this study within the context of ad hoc teams of strangers in League of Legends. This is really just the solo queue experience. These teams are characterized by ad hoc one-off an ad hoc one-off structure. So they form for the duration of the match and then they disband once the match ends. In these teams, there are set roles but fluid memberships. And the roles are remain the same, but whoever fills those roles is really interchangeable. Typically, the players in these teams don't have much of a history together. They're usually for the most part strangers. But despite the fact they have to perform immediately upon inception. And these type of teams are known as swift starting action teams, and they have real world counterparts such as emergency medical teams, emergency crisis teams, and some firefighting teams. So what were we looking for? Well, we have 4 research questions. The first one is around the first 2 are around establishing the cohesion relationships in the context of the ad hoc League of Legends teams because we draw a lot from the literature outside of games. And this is really because there's maybe a handful or less of studies on cohesion in games. So we're just looking to replicate the cohesion performance and cohesion satisfaction relationships because we know that these have been recurrent outside of games. In the second step, we then wanted to test the cohesion communication relationships. And for this, we looked at communication frequency and whether it's related to cohesion. And then we did a rather exploratory section where we looked at communication sequences and whether any of these sequences may be used as indicators of cohesion. So for this study, we first recruited 135 players from the UK, Europe, and the US via Reddit. We then put these players in the teams of 3 and 5, and this is based on their rank, their role, and availability. In total, we had 49 teams. We then recorded their voice chat while these teams played League of Legends in our Discord server. And once the match ended, we asked each player to individually answer a cohesion question, and the team disbanded. Then we transcribed the voice communication, and then coded the transcripts. So for each sentence in the transcript, we assigned it a communication category based on its function, and I'll talk a little bit more about this process in a bit. At this stage, I want to say a huge thanks to everyone involved. This really was quite a collaborative project. There were 3 experimenters, 5 transcribers, and 3 coders in addition to myself. And this entire study was done over COVID. So I'm super grateful. If these people didn't get involved, it wouldn't have been done. So this is what our coding scheme looked like. We had 17 codes in total. We originally took the first 10 codes were taken from a study on swift starting aviation crews. And in that study, the codes represent some of the most common things that are said within that context. Then during the coding process, we added another 7 categories that reflected, that the coders felt reflected the communication in League of Legends as well. So here are some of our results. At this point, I'm gonna Oh, no, that's fine. So, we found that the cohesion performance and cohesion satisfaction relationships were significant. They're positive and significant in the direction that we would expect. We also found, we then looked at communication frequency and cohesion. And for this, we looked at word frequency and cohesion. And for that, we found a positive relationship as well. But when we looked at category frequencies, we could not find any unique relationships between any of the categories and cohesion. So that was not significant. Research question 4, we then did an exploratory analysis of communication sequences. For this, we did we did a case study on two teams that had lost, except that one team reported high cohesion and one team reported low cohesion. So these results I'm going to talk about here are only a snippet. The rest of it is in the paper, and if you are interested in all that, you can go and read the paper. So in general, we did find that there were differences in communication sequences between these two types of teams. So in the high cohesion team, one of the sequences we observed was a significant suggestion acknowledgement sequence, and this is kind of shown by the sequence graph. So the sequence graph is read from the y-axis to the x-axis, and the black box is really the sequences you should be focusing on. It kind of just shows in this team when suggestions were given, they were met with acknowledgement or agreement, which maybe kind of indicates that this particular team is on the same page about what to do. But interestingly, they also had a significant apologies encouragement sequence. So if someone made a mistake, instead of being met with blame or flaming, they would be encouraged. Which kind of shows that maybe in this particular team, it's okay to make mistakes, and that maybe added to the perceptions, added to the social bonds between players. In contrast, in the low cohesion team, we found a significant command disagree sequence. And so commands and suggestions are a little bit different. Suggestions are you have time to deliberate on what to do, whereas commands are like really quick, like go here now, do this now, and it's either you do it or you don't. But the fact that we observed a significant command disagree sequence kind of maybe suggests that actually in this particular team they weren't on the same page about what to do or what was the best action in that moment. And obviously League is a very fast game. We also saw a disagree sequence, which kind of means that when someone disagreed to something, instead of being diffused, it was followed up by more disagreement by another player. And I guess it's kind of like agitated the situation a little bit more. And we also found a really significant frustration sequence where someone was expressing their frustration and then someone else would respond by also expressing their frustration, and I suppose it just you can imagine why this would reduce the perceptions of cohesion in the team. So, the key takeaway from that is that, yes, there were interactions between team members of high and low cohesion teams differ. But again, please check out the paper for more in-depth examples and more sequences. So here, I'm going to wrap up with 3 key takeaways. The first one is that because we were able to establish the relationship between cohesion and well-known correlates like performance and satisfaction, it kind of suggests that games may be used as a test bed to study real-world swift-starting action teams, and in general, games would be used to investigate existing and emerging issues within the team performance literature. The second takeaway is that perhaps we should be focusing on the interactions between team members. Should be doing more sequence analysis, because we see that a core difference between the high and low cohesion team was the sequences that were significant. And this can also kind of just give us a little more insight into how the interaction between team members have led to certain emergent states like cohesion. And perhaps we can then identify sequences that build cohesion or hinder cohesion, which can then inform how you might design collaborative systems or develop interventions. This final takeaway, and I think it's probably my favorite one, is that in our case study, we did look at 2 losing teams at different levels of cohesion. So it kind of shows that actually it is possible to have a sense of cohesion despite a negative outcome. And this kind of suggests that irrespective of performance, its impact on performance, maybe we should be striving to looking for ways to build cohesion, because it does lead to more a high level of satisfaction and retention, which could, in a game, in the context of League of Legends, it could be something that helps to create more positive player experiences. And with that, I end here. Thank you very much. If you like to reach me, you can find me on Twitter. Otherwise, please check out our paper. Thank you so much.